Hey there, fellow critics. Today I have an interesting topic. Well, it's more of a story. The story of how Netflix spells out the demise of Xbox. Now you might be thinking, how can that be? How are they even connected? Well, let me start out by telling you a little story about a company called Netflix. And I've been with Netflix for forever, probably from the beginning, from when they first started. And we all know Netflix today as the huge streaming service it is. It has movies, it has shows, it has its own programming, its own content. And you might be thinking, okay, well, they're already making comparisons, right, with Xbox. It's going to be the next Netflix. Gamepass. You know, that's what they're going towards, and you'll soon understand where the connections actually connect. They actually go together more than you may think. So, like I said, Netflix started out actually with DVDs. There were no actual, there was no app. You could not stream movies or shows. It was a DVD rental service. Something to compete with Blockbuster, with all these other, these other privately owned or chains of stores that used to rent movies or shows. So, even back then, they had their issues immediately. As soon as Netflix started, they realized there would be issues because, of course, Netflix they mailed their movies to you, which was part of the appeal, but at the same time, it was also part of the problem because they immediately started realizing that sending out movies through the mail was not the most efficient way of making money, because they had to pay for postal fees. They had to have it sent. They didn't want to, they wanted to make it as simple as possible for the person who rented a movie to receive their movie and send it back. So, yes, of course, this means that they had to, they of course probably made their money in the service fee, but it was still money they had to fork over to make it convenient for the people who use the service. So eventually they realized having this service meant that people would have to wait for their movies. You could go into the higher tiers where you rent maybe 3 to 4 movies at a time. But at the same time, if you wanted to just rent maybe a few movies or just one, you'd end up waiting because, of course, the postal service part of it means that it would take a few days before it reached you. You would not be seeing that movie for 2 to 3 days. Sometimes even more. And on weekends, it was even worse. So that would diminish some of the appeal to the service. So they said, you know what, we need something that can tie people over. Something that can really hold their attention until they receive their movie. And that's when they decided to start doing streaming. They said, okay, we could have a streaming service where we have a few movies, a few shows, something that people can watch to kind of like stall them. So when they get their movie, their newer movies, because of course we know Netflix doesn't have the newest movies even today. They've done much better than they used to, but we always knew that was not what Netflix was about. But yes, even back then, people had to wait their few days, so they said, we need something to keep them from becoming impatient, waiting those 3 days they might have to wait to receive their movie. That's when this streaming service came in. And making connections to Xbox, you could say that the DVD rental service is Xbox, right? Because Xbox, the games, they're physical, right? You could say they're physical just like the DVDs. And as we all know, things have changed and we're heading towards digital. Towards all games being digital. So, just as Xbox and Netflix both decided to have digital as an option, we both know that's how it went with both of them. Xbox and all consoles started doing digital content aside from physical content, and it's been growing and growing more. And so became the same with Netflix. So getting back to the Netflix side of things, Netflix realized if we want to really make the most profit we can, we want to really just grow, we need to start trying to phase out the delivery part, the DVD rental service part. And they actually did try to kill it off. Very early on, they tried to kill it off. They tried to actually, I don't know if anyone remembers, but you can look this up. They tried to separate their website, right? Because that was another way that people could watch the streams, is also on computer, not just on your TV. And they started by trying to separate their website and rename the DVD rental service as, what was it? I think it was Quipster. Let me look at this. It was Quickster. They renamed it and they made a separate website, and it didn't take long. I immediately knew what they were trying to do because I was seeing the growing catalog of digital content they were putting on their streaming service. I could see them expanding it more and more, and it was just a matter of time before they said, do we really need this DVD rental service? So I'm sitting there and I'm just like, this is it. They're trying to kill off the DVD rental system. Now, at that time, I was still a very big fan of that. I was still big into renting movies because that was the best way of getting the newest, most recent movies or shows. So I was not happy when I saw this. I knew exactly what they were doing. I was not happy, and so weren't a lot of people, because it didn't take long before they had an outcry. There was a backlash, and they immediately took back that decision and put things how they were. Quickster did not last as a website. They took that bitch down real quick. Let's just say that. So now that we've finished with that story, we can actually make the connections. Now, I'm sure you can already realize what I'm getting towards, what I'm working towards with this story. Xbox is a DVD rental service, and Microsoft, they want to become Netflix. They see how digital is growing, how physical is being phased out, and they're not rushing. See, Netflix, they rushed it. And even today, which I'm not 100% sure, but I think you can still even rent DVDs today, which goes to show how much that backlash, how much that they realized it's not going to be that easy, and it's something we have to do over time. And last time I did look up whether they're still doing it, and the last thing that they said about the rental system, Netflix came out and said that they continue to lose money over it, but they plan on letting it die naturally over time. And you can say that is what Xbox is doing, what Microsoft is doing with Xbox. They are letting it. They're not killing it off right now per se, but they know that eventually they're going to let it die off, and they're going to go into the world of digital, everything digital, and streaming. Like, it is. And this is not something that any gamer likes to hear. You don't like the idea of streaming games. We know how things are as it is, how internet is. we don't have the speeds. We're not ready for it. And they know this as well, so they are preparing for it. This is not something that will happen immediately, but I do see it happening. So you can see why I do think that the story of Netflix is indeed the same story as Microsoft and Xbox. It's just that it's going to take time before, before Microsoft actually gets to that point where they kill it off. But it is a matter of time. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to disagree with this. I mean, some people will understand where I'm coming from, but a lot of people disagree. A lot of people just won't like hearing that. Especially when you'll have people trying to make the point, well, PlayStation isn't going that route, so they're trying to be like, oh, the PlayStation going that way, so if you should switch to that, which I don't know if this is 100% a bad thing, even though not everyone is ready to go all digital, and not everyone, and definitely people don't like the idea of streaming all their games. Because right now, Game Pass, it lets you download your games, and you're thinking, that's cool, I like that. It's kind of like Netflix, but it's better because I can still have that native experience. But at the same time, they will be transitioning to streaming at some point. I don't know if they're going to continue to support the Xbox forever, and they might end up rebranding it. Nothing is for sure, but it's definitely something interesting to think about and to consider. And while you're considering that, let me know what you think. Leave a comment. If you liked the video, hey, give me that, hit that like button. But, this has been Honest to Critic. As always saying, if you're going to be a critic, be honest. And, catch you next time.